I'm going to call the meeting of the Select Board on March 4th, 2025 to order. Note, this meeting is televised, streamed, and recorded by Bourne TV. If anyone in the audience is recording or videotaping, they need to acknowledge such at this time. Jamie, are you on? All right, thanks, Jamie. Jamie on Zoom. Use of flash photography during Select Board meetings is prohibited. If anyone from the public wishes to access the meeting, they can do so by calling the conference line 1-929-205-6099. The Zoom meeting ID is 818-5753-4295. The password is all uppercase Bourne, B-O-U-R-N-E. The Zoom chat will not be monitored. Participants who wish to speak must raise the hand icon until the chair asks them to unmute. All items within the meeting agenda are subject to deliberation and votes. We begin with a moment of silence to recognize our troops and public safety personnel. And salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Reading of the Select Board vision and mission. Anybody like to read the vision?
I got the vision. Bourne is a proud community that embraces change while respecting the rich heritage of the town and its villages. It is a municipality based on strong fiscal government with a durable economy that recognizes the rights of all citizens, respects the environment, economy that recognizes the rights of all respects the environment, especially the coastal areas of the community and the amenities that it affords. Bourne embraces excellent education and offers to citizens a healthy, active lifestyle.
Thank you. And the mission?
I'll take it.
Anne Marie?
Bourne will maximize opportunities for social and economic development while retaining an attractive, sustainable, and secure coastline and environment for the enjoyment of residents and visitors. Through responsible and professional leadership and in partnership with others, Bourne will strive to improve the quality of life for all residents living and working in the larger community.
Thank you. Next item is report out from executive session. We had executive session to discuss a contract issue and develop strategy to address. Community shout out and recognition. This is kind of a banner year that Paige Mehta on the girls, Bourne High School girls basketball team class of 2025 broke the most points scored record that was previously held by Heather Chase of the class of 1997, and Nate Reynolds, class of 2025, did the same thing for the most points scored, broke record of Josh Ashworth for class of 2017. So quite basketball, and good luck to the boys. Bourne High School basketball team. They are playing in the second round of the states against Littleton this evening. So good luck to them. Anybody else?
I just have a quick, it's not so much as I guess it is a shout out, not a recognition, but I did want to just make a note and that we all keep State Representative Dave Vieira in your thoughts as far the past, just the other day. And also Mashpee Wampanoag tribe lost one of their very well-respected matriarchs, June Hendricks, as well as one of their other elders, Bud Harding. So just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
You have something else?
Yes, I want to recognize the Strategic Plan Committee for Bourne Public Schools. There's been a bunch of us who have been doing work since the fall, but what's been most impressive is the fact of our student involvement. You know, students from Bourne Middle School. I'm trying to find their names here. We're low alumni, J.T. Luce, as well as Jackie Battles and Alexa Weston. You know, these students have, brought a lot of perspective from their point of view to this planning process, and it's nice when we see the younger kids get involved. So I want to say thank you. It's been fun. It's been entertaining at times as well, in early mornings, but it's been worth it. And I think next month's the last meeting, and then they present to the school committee, so I think you'll see the fruits of everybody's hard work. So good job to everybody with that.
Thank you. Next item is public comment on non-agenda items. Is there anyone to speak on a topic that is not on the agenda this evening? Seeing none, I move the instruction. Next, we're going to move item 11, discussion regarding private parking lot licensing, Taylor's Point neighborhood, up on the agenda and discuss it
Madam Chair,
next. Yes.
I will be recusing myself in this matter as I am president of the Taylor's Point Association, and in that capacity, I may have a conflict of interest, so I'll be stepping aside for this discussion.
Okay, thank you, Peter.
Please text me or whatever when it's time.
They'll go get you.
Okay. So, Liz, are you going to begin with this discussion? and
Yes, I
explain
will.
Your wonderful memo, if you all didn't see in our packet that's on our calendar with the agenda. Liz did a tremendous amount of work on this issue, and so I leave it to you. Thank you very much, by the way.
You're welcome. Thank you. Liz Hartsgrove, the Assistant Town Administrator. So, yeah, there was a question from past Select Board meetings during public comment that there were some issues that needed to be addressed regarding parking on private properties, residential properties, and then also on top of that, the town, actually the police department had received several complaints about pop-up type of parking events happening around special times, like 4th of July and then Canal Day. And so that prompted this research that is before you in the memo. The Select Board, or the town adopted back in 2002, actually at town meeting, the state statute that needs to be adopted by municipalities in order to at least license and allow private parking lot operations, whether it is to park vehicles or even store vehicles. If you're exchanging money, what that means is it's Chapter 148, Section 56 in Mass General Law. And it was, like I said, accepted at town meeting in 2002. And what that means is anybody that's exchanging money for either parking a vehicle on a premise or storing a vehicle on a premise, and it does not state how many vehicles, it just says a vehicle or storing a vehicle, that they actually need to be licensed through the local licensing authority. That is the Select Board for the town of Bourne. And on top of that, because as licensing is wonderfully multi-layered, you have to, with any type of regulatory, you have to be in correct zones to allow types of businesses and operations to occur. And then there's also additional layers of like with conservation, if there are other types of oversights that need to be involved in the adoption. So before it even gets to licensing, all of those little components have to actually be checked off and allowed, conditions placed or whatever, and then it gets to the local licensing authority, and the licenses are approved every year. There has to be a fee. From that research, as you can see from my memo, a lot of things were kind of, there were some loose ends that didn't get tied up as far as licensing is concerned. There wasn't actually a formal fee hearing adopted, and so there's several different things in this research project that kind of developed that the Select Board are going to have to consider moving forward. So specifically on the complaints that were filed, there's two separate complaints. One by the residents, and it's regarding Taylor's Point area residents. According to the building commissioner, that is in an R40 zone, and any type of commercial parking operations is not allowed through zoning, period. You can't get a special permit. It's just strictly not allowed. So licensing is not an issue, and enforcement can be done in several ways. We'll get to that, Okay. The other complaint that was filed regarding this pop-up events, and also there's photographs in there on actual cadet advertising and promoting for cadet parking in what is called the downtown waterfront district area. That zone, which is along Main Street in Buzzards Bay, that zone is actually, it requires review by the building commissioner and the potential of a special permit issued through the planning board, okay? It is an allowed use, but that has to go through a process. From my research, I could not see any process as far as that portion of it. And I do know that it has not come to the local licensing authority, the select board, to complete its necessary steps to be in compliance with the accepted laws. So as far as enforcement, so there's two scenarios, there's two issues, one at Taylor's Point and then one on Main Street.
Can I stop you there?
Yes, of
Can I
course,
stop you?
of course,
So our agenda this evening
yes,
is discussion regarding private parking lot licensing on Taylor's Point neighborhood.
correct, okay.
So I would like to, tonight, let's just talk about the Taylor's Point issue.
Okay.
And let's set up a separate agenda to talk about the licensing for pop-ups, Main Street, Steamship Authority, whatever. And I think if we do that,
Yes,
we'll focus in on the things that I think are easy to answer this evening. And so
Okay.
I'd like to do it that way. Is that okay with everyone on the
Yes.
board?
Yes, yeah.
And because Peter could actually be in the discussion about the other stuff, so.
Sure.
Let's just
true.
do the
We have
Taylor's
quite a big
Point part of
agenda,
it.
so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Per usual.
okay.
So, as far as enforcement is concerned, because you are the local licensing authority, you have the ability to authorize or delegate to town staff issuing letters, notifying people that may be out of compliance that are, or in violation of a license, okay? So again, you're focusing on licensing, the building commissioner can focus on zoning and any other types of regulatory components. You know, if it was Board of Health, then it would be the health agent, right?
Right.
If it's the conservation, it would be the conservation agent, okay? So as far as right now, you have the authority to delegate to, you can issue the letter or you can delegate to staff and it's through the town administration office, or it could be even the police department. They are in the purview of having the ability to be delegated those types of regulatory. Typically, it's the town administration office. It's very close. Okay. So you can consider issuing across to all residents within notifying people that there has been some activity that has been observed or witnessed, and these are the rules, that it is not allowed. You give typically a window of time for compliance, and that it basically gives everybody notice that on such and such day, enforcement is going to begin. It gives the property owners time to comply. It gives ample time as well to possible customers of theirs, if they are if they're in violation, that they can find alternative parking options. So then it comes to the fact that when you're when you've finished that window, then the board has to make the decision as to what are the next steps. You can issue citations within the scope of the adopted general bylaws. It's in your bylaws, the town's bylaws, as far as, because this is a non-criminal citation. So the fines are actually determined by your general bylaws. And the general bylaws are relatively vague. It's anywhere between 50 to 300 a day. Each day is constituted as a violation. It's actually good, because some towns, it's very specific and it's each violation. So you could the staff could be writing citations $300 for each vehicle every day.
Every day.
Which I've had the experience of doing, which is very onerous and Yeah.
So can I,
So,
it's
a good
I mean, if people have questions, I mean, I think we're gonna have a few questions, but when I read the zoning bylaw, which the R40 is the zoning, and it's
Yes.
not under the R40.
Yes.
So under the zoning, the building inspector enforces the zoning code,
that's correct.
and enforcement, they take action necessary, and the penalties for violating any provisions of this bylaw shall be fined $50 for each offense. Each day that the violation continues shall be constituted a second offense. And I don't know if the bylaws are the same on that.
Right.
And then there's non-criminal violation procedures. So,
Yeah, so it can be like a one, not, I mean, I don't want to be very blunt about this, but it can be a 1-2. Like, you can go in tandem, the letter can be issued, and I've included, actually, I gave you tonight an example of a letter that I had issued back in 2017 when I worked for the town of Barnstable. And it was for a property that was operating an illegal parking lot, or unlicensed parking lot, excuse me, in a zone that was not actually allowed to include any new private parking lots. And at the end, in the last paragraph, it says that if you'd like to proceed with actually obtaining a license, you do need to, and see if you're allowed, you need to actually go through the building department for that conversation. So the letter for the licensing authority can actually direct them to the right person to have a conversation and know what is within their purview, if they have any questions. So I think that is something that can be done, and I do recommend that it could be a 30, 60, 90-day calendar, whatever you think is best. Typically, it's 30 days for compliance, unless the board votes to do it even at 5 days. I've seen it less, I've seen it more. So,
my sense is July 1st is when we're gonna notify them that July 1st, because that's the end of the semester. I think we understand that there's all kinds of things, so rather than try to create a lot of hubbub, we say it's ending July 1st.
Yeah.
You're not going to have parking next year. So I think if we can do some sort of letter that says it's not allowed to, I like the idea of sending to all residents that activity has been, she said that it's not allowed, and that enforcement will begin on July 1st. And then whatever you think they have to do to
Yep.
talk to the building inspector to,
yep.
yeah, to figure, does that seem to everyone as the sense of what we should do here?
Do they run on trimesters at Mass Maritime?
I'm not 100% certain.
So why would July 1st be there and not May?
I think it's in June. I don't know when their date is.
Yeah, I would try to get it done as soon as possible. I mean, the residents in
Yeah,
Taylor's
I
Point
don't-
have.
I understand that
Are-
it's a compassionate move to
And
say
they're
July 1st,
they're in
but-
violation of
but yeah,
zoning,
it's-
they're in violations of, they can't do this.
Right.
Period.
Right.
You know, I think it's unfortunate. It's, you know, you feel for the students who have vehicles and, you know, the struggle with parking, but that's on Mass Maritime. They should be, if there's that much of a need, they should be finding ways to provide parking for their students. Why is it on the onus of, you know, the Taylor Point residents having to put up with these conditions? I mean, look at the pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did actually drive
soon as
through the
possible.
neighborhood earlier today and witness a significant number of properties that are in question. So that have multiple cars without estate plates, and so, yeah, I mean, it is obvious that they're not associated with that parcel. It's just,
Yeah, and if I was in the house buying business and was going down that road, looking at a house for sale and looking at property, forget it. Why would I want to buy in that area? It's, yeah. I think we should try to expedite this as quickly as possible. It's unfortunate that, you know, the students will suffer, but again,
So graduation is June 21st. The academic review is June 24th and 25th. But summer term begins June 30th. So I think June 25th is I just feel that you have a lot of little people that have collected a couple $100 from some students who then, I mean, I'd hear from the residents if they feel they're okay with
Sure.
finishing it up in June,
Yeah,
or
sure, we're
whether
gonna
they
get
feel
comments
that
from the
it should
residents.
start beforehand. I think that,
If I may.
yes.
So, I mean, I think, as Anne Marie said, I think for me, obviously, the residents over there have had to deal with these cars all over their neighborhood. But I think all of our neighborhoods in Bourne are important, and I think that for me, it's a more of a precedent as it's a violation, and it needs to be addressed. We can't allow it, or else we're not doing our jobs as select board. We're supposed to be handling these things. So, the students, it's kind of we want
is-
to help
it's
our
unfortunate,
residents.
but-
They're violating the law, but I think it would be the same in any neighborhood, right? So I think it's important that we note that our entire town, nobody's allowed to do this, and it
Right.
shouldn't be happening.
I agree with you.
It's a
definitely on
state
that.
statute, and the town adopted it. Why aren't we enforcing it?
Right. Yeah, so thank you.
Any comments from the residents on when to begin or when not to begin, or, please, go to the podium. You have to speak to the microphone.
I think it was, my name's Jack Scully, and I live at Taylor's Point. And I think it was a couple of months ago that we talked about this issue. And way back then, we talked about providing a letter to the people that own the property after the school season is over or the semester is over, that we would let them know. The only, and I agree with everything that I've heard so far, the only concern I have is this is not going to be the end of it. I mean, the school enrollment keeps going up and up and up and up and every year. And the way we're dealing with it is we're putting parking lots all over the place. And it just doesn't look like a community when you start putting parking lots all over the place. And then now I hear that there's a house that's down by the canal that has a really big area in the back, and they're considering taking that to turn that into a parking lot also. I don't know, I heard it. But I did some research over the past few weeks, and just one happened to find out that the private school in Marion, what the heck's the name of that school?
Tabor?
Tabor Academy?
Huh?
Tabor Academy?
Tabor Academy. I'm losing it
That's
at
all
this
right.
stage.
I am
Tabor
too.
Academy has a kind of a policy that they don't allow parking for freshmen and sophomores. So they reduce that, and then as the senior class moves out, the others move up, then somebody gets the parking. But they don't allow parking at all over there. And it seems to work out okay. So I think this is the first step, because in the future, we're gonna run into more and more of this. And I don't know what the solution is, but somebody needs to get involved in it now before it gets too far ahead. And I appreciate all the work that Liz has done. It sounds like she's done a lot of research on it. And this morning, for the first time, I happened to see, they're all back. Today was the first day that I saw them all back. So I drove around this afternoon when I came back home, and there's 3 homes that have at least 6 cars in their parking area, 6. And then on top of it, we have the vans from Mass Maritime parking down there. There's 8 of them on one side, and then by the ballpark, there's another bunch of vans. I mean, that's another issue besides parking. But I just want to thank the board, if we can get that done and the letters sent out to these people so that they know that there's going to be a fine or a violation of this, the covenants or the zoning. But the other thing I'm a little concerned with is the person that's going to watch over this is the building inspector. I'm not too sure that.
Well, not
Yeah,
watch
there's a
over.
method, so
Issue.
there's a method with the building department for complaints to be filed. A request for enforcement. Whenever a violation of this bylaw occurs or is alleged to have occurred, any person may file a signed written request for enforcement. So it's a very simple thing. If there's a problem, you're gonna notify the building inspector, and then the building inspector's gonna take care of it.
Oh, he will, okay.
Yes.
Because, I mean, I'm okay if that happens, but I've had a couple of incidents with him. There's a house on 4 Bay Drive it had a permit issued last December. And the permit, I understand, runs out after a year. And so the permit's gone, but this house has been sitting idle for over a year and a half. Nothing's been done, and I'm sure that it's rodent-ridden right now because there's nothing there. And the house is starting to fall apart. There's insulation hanging out on the front and everything else, and nothing's been done. And I mentioned it to the building inspector. I haven't seen anything done there. So, I mean, that's just my thought. And if that works out with the building inspector, then that's fine. But I'm just a little curious about that. And then again, I want to thank the board, and I want to thank Liz for all of the work she's done, and the rest of you guys. So if that happens, I'm happy.
Okay. Anyone else? Katie?
Adelaide Carrara, Taylor's Point. Again, I want to thank all of you, too. Two updates. I was told that on Facebook or something, there was an advertisement, if you want to rent a space on Taylor's Point, call this number. I don't know if it's true or not, but it just keeps on growing. We have 7 cars beside us, and he has this new 7th car that is literally up against a pole, and the only way he could come out is the driver's side. I look out, and there are 7 cars there. The other thing is, the students start coming around the vicinity, asking if they could rent a space. And they get between $400 and $600 a student car for the year. And it only, I think, is it 175? 175 if they go to the school to get a parking spot. So they're getting almost $4,000 a year. And we're sitting there watching, it's not the students' fault, but watching our neighbors make this money, and we have to pay taxes. And if we want to sell our house, how can we sell our house with 7 cars beside our house? And by the way, he's selling his house, but he's not selling his house because he uses that. Put a sign out there, $800,000, $799, something like that, and pushed it back so the cars could come in. So if you go by to look at the house, just look at the cars. But again, we all appreciate what you're doing. It's 6 years that we've been dealing with this, 2019? 2019, and it just keeps growing and growing. And they're all people who rent this space, these little numbers of cars, don't live there all year. They're all seasonal. So please, you don't know how felt I feel tonight listening to you, thinking of us, and acting on it. Thank you again.
Anybody else?
I just
You have to
wanted
come to the microphone so Board TV viewers can see you on TV.
Well, my wife's been telling me for almost 33 years that my voice projects, so I just wanted a clarification, if I might. I understand there are people on Taylor Point that let the cadets park for free. Is that permissible? It's not. Okay.
You know, an accessory use of your house is people that are come to visit you, stay with you, for a short period of time. I don't think that's an allowed accessory use.
So I'll answer the question by that it's not a licensing issue.
Right.
It would be more of a zoning as well as a conservation, because there are driveways. Cars are supposed to be put on the driveway, so then the runoff from water and anything isn't actually going into the ground, it's going in. So there's several,
There's a
like,
flood issue. There's
exactly,
flood plain
exactly.
issues on
So
Taylor's Point, too, so.
it's different regulatory components that need to be reviewing those, but that would not be a licensing. It is when,
Yeah.
for licensing is when money is exchanged at hand, that is when you come into play.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and this gentleman made a good point. I went to a school in Connecticut, Coast Guard Academy. We couldn't have a vehicle until we were seniors. So
I went to Connecticut College. Right across the street.
I was in during Vietnam, they wouldn't talk to us. But anyways, I don't know, I don't think that the town can tell the state of Massachusetts, well, you know, they can't have cars till they're seniors, so I don't know how that's.
It's common
they
practice
limit them.
among many university and school. Even the school I went to, no freshmen, no vehicle.
I
All
actually-
freshmen, no vehicle.
I actually
It's
read in
very
some
common.
of these Reddit comments, I don't know if they allow it anyway, some of these kids that are parking are freshmen that want to be able to take their
Yeah,
cars
so
that
they-
aren't allowed
yeah,
by the
so
university.
it's a workaround.
One
You
student
can't-
said,
You can't park on campus,
Right.
but they're
Well,
finding
yeah,
another way,
it-
yeah.
so
well,
it
won't be
still
a
reflects
workaround
back
if-
on the academy to solve this issue.
Okay, so we do, I mean, I think we're heading in the right direction. I think the board needs to decide. If you want to go stricter than July 1st and, you know, that's up to the board. I think we need to, start, I mean, that's my end date. If you want to try to go earlier, what do you think is fair for administration to get together, to put together a letter and notify and give time for?
I do also recommend that a copy of the letter be sent to the MMA to give them a heads up that this is going to be occurring, because they will be getting the phone calls,
Yeah.
or that they will be getting the complaints, and they need to be aware of, you know,
Yeah.
what's happening by their abutters.
Right. Yeah, I did have a conversation with Alan Metcalf about this issue, so.
Yeah.
I just have one more question.
Go-
Everything that I hear going on, I think is good. Again, I want to emphasize that, is Mass Maritime also going to get a copy of these letters that says that there's no parking and everything? I think there should be somebody that sits down with Mass Maritime to talk about the future. Because as I said, this is only the beginning. As they start to grow and they build more dormitories, there's more kids going to come in, so what is their policy going to be? Are they going to change it to say freshmen can't park, or are they just going to build more parking lots? So we have to do something besides just coming up with, we'll build another parking lot. So maybe somebody needs to be a liaison between the town and Mass Maritime to try to
We
work
do
out.
actually have a liaison.
Work
We
out
do
the
talk to them
problem.
regularly.
I'd
Yeah.
I
appreciate
meet
it.
them monthly, so.
Okay, that's
I will
all I had.
certainly
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
add that.
Okay, so is there a motion? Does someone feel prepared to make a motion, or do you want to have a discussion about the date first? I think we need to have a balance of giving time for people to have notice. and-
60 days would be May 4th. So 90 days would be June 4th.
So I make a motion that we authorize the town administrator to draft a letter to Mass Maritime and the residents at Taylor's Point who are in violation of
All residents.
all residents with June 4th compliance date,
I'll second the June, oh, okay. you second.
2025.
Okay.
Yeah, I think June's fair enough.
I think it is, yeah.
That's 90 days. 60, I don't think would have been fair, because things
Yeah.
go, time goes quickly,
Yeah.
you know?
I think that's better to do it ahead of time, to give some people some notice, rather than pushing it towards the end of the school year and having that add to that
Chaos.
list,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. And that we will,
MJ.
it's the intention, we authorize the,
MJ, we have a hand up.
wait, yeah,
When you're planning this letter,
right,
they graduate like around the 20th of June.
right.
These students are automatically one after another year, every year. So it's the sooner you get a letter out and
Yeah.
notify them, the students,
We're
even
going to get the
before they
letter
get it.
out ASAP.
The letter will go out as soon as possible.
You know,
They have to be compliant by June 4th.
That would be good.
That's what the
Yeah.
letter will indicate.
Yeah, because-
But the letter will be sent out as soon as the town administrator
So the
can draft the
people
letter.
who are
and-
renting their space will know
Correct.
that.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
So if you don't get a letter because it'll be sent to all of the residents,
That's fine.
you let me know, because I have to give it to every single I just mail it to every single resident. Okay. So,
Okay, so we have the motion was by Anne Marie and
Second by Jean.
a second by Jean.
Madam Chair, may I add something?
Yes,
Hand up.
Marlene.
So June 4th is a Wednesday.
Yeah.
I would prefer that the effective date of the enforcement be a Monday.
Okay.
So students can get their cars out of the neighborhood over the weekend. and
Okay.
Bring them back. So I would prefer that the enforcement date, the effective date of the enforcement action be Monday, June 2nd.
Second? Okay. Is that good?
That's acceptable.
Okay. So we're going to have administration send a letter to Mass Maritime and the residents of Taylor's Point that the parking in the R40 zone is out of the zoning and will be enforced, and enforcement's going to begin on Monday, June 2nd, 2025. And maybe some, I don't know if you want to talk about what the enforcement's going to be in the letter, but you, I'm sure, can draft an awesome letter.
I
That's-
have experienced issuing good
Okay.
compliant letters, and I will make sure also to have council review it, just to make sure.
Great,
Okay?
thank you. Yeah, and I actually just looked up on the Mass Maritime website, and they do not allow freshmen, first-year
They do
students
not
to
allow
have a
freshman
cars in.
parking.
No,
That's-
then the sob letter comes in, I have to do.
Well, there was
you know.
one student in the Reddit comments that said, I have a parent I have to take care of, a caregiver I need, you know.
Which is-
but-
Okay, is there any further discussion?
No.
Okay. We could just vote this, we don't need a roll call because we're here.
That's right.
Oh, we're
All
here.
right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any
Yay.
opposed? Abstentions?
Thank you.
It's unanimous, 400.
Thank you.
There we go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's hope this helps.
Okay.
Last week, but they were gone. I know, yeah, they look very nice.
All righty.
And we'll schedule a time to talk about the other parking.
That's a good
some
idea.
point.
That's a really good idea. That's going to be a deeper
It
conversation.
is a deep, because it's really going to be policy and how we're going to enforce it. And the difference between pop-ups and because pop-ups you need pop-ups on Canal Day and 4th of July and all that stuff.
That's right,
so-
it's like, you know, I
Fine, but
had,
just follow the process.
I had expressed it, you know, about like thinking about like, you know, towns like, you know, Easton that have, you know, the Tweeter Center. And, you know, how do they handle that?
there's a
You go to
letter
Boston, you can
going
pay to
out.
park. If you need to go to the
ASAP.
Red Sox game, there's
Right,
private
just go to
owners.
Freiburg Fair in Maine and everybody's front
Enforcement
yard.
People
but
do
they
allow
they
it.
do
I mean,
licenses
it
Yeah, it
and
happens in
pop-up events.
Provincetown,
Happens.
even with,
Not till like a couple
with
weeks later.
churches, so
Right.
they have a temporary license
Yeah.
that
They're gonna have to
is
go
issued. So
They'll
we'll
have
talk
90
about that.
days.
I was
with a
thinking
letter,
about
heads up.
though, you know how we have like
So
the
it's not
hawkers
like-
We
and
still have
peddlers
open
session?
session.
We're gonna go, yeah.
And we have
Letters
the
going out. You gotta
short-term
be
hawkers
careful,
and
yeah.
peddlers. It's more like that for the pop-up parking. Yeah, you're right on
Right.
it, Liz. Okay.
We're-
All right, thank you for everyone for being patient
Mostly
with
freshmen,
us
and they're not graduating.
on
either.
that, having that discussion.
Schools
We've
just
done
gonna have to
this.
deal with it.
Next is consent agenda. St. Margaret's Church one-day liquor license for event on March 8th, 2025. Habitat for Humanity of Cape Cod annual ride for homes use of town roads on September 14th, 2025. Appoint Lieutenant Daniel Cox as the Police Department representative to Human Services Committee with a term date ending June 30th, 2027. Authorize the chair of the Select Board to sign the Statement of Interest MSBA application for the Bourne Middle School roof pursuant to the vote taken on February 11, 2025. And Best Buddies International 26th Annual Best Buddies Challenge use of the roads on May 31st, 2025.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Peter, second by Anne Marie. Melissa. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, abstentions? It's unanimous. Okay.
We can-
Next is the budget presentation by Bourne Public Schools.
Very nice one.
Welcome.
Thank you for letting us move the agenda around.
I know. Get it all. I figured, I know who to ask, you know. I did that before, remember?
Do you want a mint?
I was like, I know Jeannie.
Do you want a mint?
Sure.
Because peppermint helps with.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Thank you. Yeah, it started before I left. Wintergreen is good. Oh, shit. Come on.
First of all, I want to thank you for all the shout outs. We love hearing that. And I want to thank both of our strategic planning members. And I have to say the students were amazing and have been. We had 4, 2 middle school, 1 underclassman and 1 upperclassman, and they are just fantastic. Also, at the third quarter, we are ahead in boys basketball, so it's very exciting, and if I hear, I'm going to let you know. But on to the task at hand. So first I want to thank our chair, Emily Berry, who is online and available for questions later, and also one of our school committee members, Maureen Fuller, who is right there, and also I'll turn it over to my colleague a little later, Mr. Jordan Geis. So I'm Carrie Quinlan Joe. Again, I'm always happy to come and see this board, and I have for you tonight our budget presentation. So if you would, Liz, thank you very much. So just a quick overview. It's very similar to what you see each year, very detailed. It talks about how we develop our budget, our assumptions, our priorities, some school and program specific information for this year, our snapshots and many beautiful pie charts, and then our overall recommendation. Okay, so as always, our budget process involves multiple stakeholders. We start as early as September. We are never out of budget season, but we start working, working on next year's budget in September, October, November. This year, we negotiated and settled 4 union contracts between the months of September and December, with full ratification in January. So this includes all of that. We're very thankful to our union partners. And also, as you know, we meet with Budget and Facilities Subcommittee, and we also meet with town administration throughout the course of this entire process. We look at it from so many different lenses: district-wide, site-based, programmatic, and the very individual needs right down granular to all of our students. I discussed some of the budget timelines. I'll breeze over a few of these because it's the same presentation I give to school committee, but I wanted you to have all of it. So I think you know a lot of these timelines. Many of them involve you. So our revenue assumptions. So we're assuming that things are at last year's level, at least, including our school choice and tuition programs, local, state, and federal grants at FY25 level, circuit breaker, military mitigation funded at traditional levels. These are some of our big offsets that we use to help augment our budget. And you'll see at the end when I say offset, it's what the town affords us, and then an additional approximately $4 million that we use in offsets each year. In working with our town partners, including the town administrator, who I'm very grateful for working with us, we have in this budget the projected town revenue to support a 4% increase, and then also that the town would receive the normal rates of Chapter 70 and the Student Opportunity Act at the governor's current budget, which is higher than last year. So next one, thank you. Our planning assumptions, we always want to maintain our very high quality programs, and as you can see if you've been on the strategic planning committee, we have extremely high quality programs. It's a great year to be at Canalman, especially at the high school. Meeting the needs of all learners, we always capitalize all because all means all to us. Every child matters. Class sizes at expected enrollment, inclusive and equitable practices, and then supporting our 3-year district strategy and our school improvement plans. So one thing I'm really proud of is that over the past few years, we've been very aligned in our work. All of our budget supports all of the planning work we do, and as we flip into the next 5-year plan, that budget will continue to support that. Great, so these are all hyperlinked again, they're on our website, so you can see this was our last district strategy as we'll flip into our new one. We have 3 pillars: building community, promoting equity, striving for excellence, and then you can see with those hyperlinks all of those very specific district and school improvement plans. Okay, we get a very granular look at each school. Lots of words on this slide. I'm not going to read all of them. They were presented at our school committee meeting, and each principal creates this slide. So in essence, you see the site-based budget. So for Bournedale Elementary, everything included is approximately $5 million, and then it shows all the things that this budget goes into. So we have continuing our American Reading Company is in year 6. This was a huge effort. It was really at the beginning of my tenure. But we're also adding some other components, including a brand new phonics program and a writing program to supplement all the great reading work that we've done. We're continuing our very exciting work with Allison Mello, who is a math workshop specialist. If you haven't heard of Math Workshop, I can talk your ear off about it, but it really makes math a lot of fun for kids and very hands-on. So we're seeing that roll up throughout all of our schools. WIN means what I need, and CPT is common planning time, so our schedules are built on these really important pillars that give students exactly what they need, personalized learning, whether that's enrichment or intervention. And common planning time, we believe our educators need time in their schedule to be able to work together, plan together. Lots more things on here that we hope that you'll take a moment to read, but just know that Bournedale is a very vibrant place, and a lot of growth has happened over the past few years. Then we move into Bourne Intermediate School. Their site-based budget is also a little over $4 million, and it's really driven by salaries, so that's why these numbers are in flux. But I'd like to point out that it says continue, 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 continue all down this slide because there's so much good work that's happening. But as you look at this, you'll see themes. Expansion of opportunities. Tier 1 instruction means what's happening in the classroom for all kids, and we really want to focus on that over the next few years. Math workshop, literacy blocks, and then all of the great things we're doing with co-teaching and social emotional supports. Moving over to the middle school. The middle school slide probably looks the most different if you think about the 4 of them, because we're having some structural scheduling changes at the middle school. Because of these changes, we were able to balance our budget, but I'm really proud of the work our middle school team did, our teachers, our administrators, to really rethink based on enrollment. And so I'll pause there for a second. I think that Mrs. Borning, the principal, did a great job if you happened to watch the meeting last week. And what she explained is we saw over the course of a few years that we had some enrollment dips. So we went at the elementary level from a 7-track to a 6-track, meaning seven homerooms to 6. And that kind of rolled right up until we got to the middle school last year. Well, now we're seeing that our 6th and our 7th grade can condense down back to a 6-track, and we were able to make all of these schedule changes. So what Mrs. Borning said, and I really do believe this, our student experience won't change at all. They'll still have all the same types of experiences, the really great, what we call unified arts. If you're not familiar with that term, it means music, art, PE, STEAM and coding, and you can see them all there, library media, all of these really great things, but a few of them will be repackaged under 1 teacher instead of 2. Because again, when you don't have 8 homerooms, when you have only 6, you're able to send less kids to less places. So it really is a function of scheduling. We also had a good amount of retirements and reallocations, so we were able to really do this and place most of our staff throughout the district. So it's been a win-win. Continue our implementation of all of our curriculum resources, and if you haven't been paying attention for the past few years, that's totally fine, but we basically have new materials in almost every subject: reading, math, social studies, science, really exciting stuff happening, so we're able to continue all of that. And also we have WIN, the What I Need period, guidance, curriculum, and lots of Tier 2 supports, which are supports for some children who need them. So lots of exciting things at Bourne Middle. And then at the high school, so many great things happening up there. So implement and expand programs. We have a new pathway coming on board, so adding to our health science pathway, our business entrepreneurship pathway, our life science pathway. We just received planning grants to do a computer science and cybersecurity pathway. And we also, as you may have read in the paper, received a grant for an early college planning with Mass Maritime. That will focus mainly on engineering and mathematics. So it's just a really
They
exciting
won't
time.
need parking spots.
We don't need parking spots. We have buses. So we're looking at opportunities that will, again, that might mean that some of their faculty come on our campus, that some of our students take a bus over there. But in essence, the difference between AP classes, of which we have many, and many of our kids succeed in, and early college, is that they automatically get that credit to any college they go to across the nation. So we're looking at courses that they'll be able to participate in and take as a high schooler that flip right into a college transcript. So it's really exciting stuff. And additionally, because we like to work smarter, not harder, we're working with their math and engineering team to really look at our math curriculum, because they've found that for engineering, students, not necessarily Bourne students, but students across the board just aren't ready for those higher level maths when they matriculate into an engineering program. We want to make sure that all Bourne students are. So there'll be a lot of great professional development. So I know that was only the first bullet, so I'll speed it up. But we're continuing with an awful lot of the things that have been going on, including new textbooks, resources, lots of new technology. And then even at the high school, we have the WIN period. It's a little different at the high school. It really allows students to meet with a teacher that they need to do makeup work for, take a test that they might have missed, get some extra credit, or if they're a high flyer, they can take a yoga class or go to weight training. So it's a little different at the high school, and it's very, very personalized. We love that period for students. All right, so continuing on. These are, again, some of our proposed changes. So we have reallocation and rescheduling, but we're keeping all of our supports in place. We're investing in an ESL curriculum across the board. We had many audits this year. Our number came up so many times. It was our lucky year for audits, but one of the things for our ESL students was that we needed a specific curriculum. So we have some money set aside to do that, adopting the U-Fly Phonics curriculum, and then really looking again at some high-quality professional development. We need to restart our leasing cycle for buses, so we had a year hiatus with that, where we buy new buses and keep doing that. So that's also built in with the collaborative. And then we have, as I've said it in many different meetings, we have some increased costs, just like everywhere in the Commonwealth, with special education to build our in-house programming and to pay for out-of-district costs. They really have skyrocketed due to inflation and tuition costs. So this was a major place that we saw it needed a lot more funding. And then we have some minimal funding put in for our new strategic initiatives. As I mentioned already, so we have a somewhat level service budget, because a level service would mean that kind of everyone who is here is going to be here rolling into the next budget cycle, where we've done some significant reductions to the tune of about $800,000. And it's a net reduction of 7 positions. You can see the math there. Of 7 full-time positions and then 4 part-time reductions. So with all that and our scheduling changes, again, I'm really proud of the work. We think it'll be a still very robust student experience. We're not looking at any major losses, and I feel really good about what we're able to do to meet this budget.
I'm looking online, and what's online and what's up here is 2 totally different spreadsheets.
I'll have to check on that. I'm not at the spreadsheet section. You seeing a spreadsheet?
Well, not spreadsheets, I mean the PDF.
The PowerPoint.
Yeah.
The numbers are a little different,
Oh, okay.
and the information. There's
Yeah.
more information here, which is great.
Yeah,
but-
this is online as well. We just grabbed it from online. So I'll have to see kind of what went up there. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Is it very different, or are the numbers just different?
Well,
Like that screen's not on here,
yeah, yeah,
Proposed changes continued, yeah.
yeah.
and a couple
Okay.
before that were not on. The ones online were not up. You know, what's there is different.
I apologize. Without looking into it and talking to our tech person, I wouldn't know where to begin with it. But this is also online. So I'll look into that and
Yeah,
fix
well, we
it by
can
tonight.
too,
Yeah.
go
Yeah,
look
we'll
online
find
and looks like what we got for our packet might be a little bit different than what's
Yes.
there or online, so it's fine.
So this is what was presented at the school committee meeting
Okay.
too, so it's probably the most recent. So again, with staffing reductions, programmatic, we're continuing our scope and sequence. But we're going to do some new curriculum alignment. So for example, at the middle school, we had a separate coding class and a separate STEAM class. And we know that the standards really meld into each other, so we're going to be able to accomplish that with one person. The same thing with health and PE. We had 2 PE teachers, 1 health teacher, and due to retirements, we're really able to bring that down to just 2 teachers total who are licensed that way, and students will still get a full health curriculum as part of that. So those are some examples. And then some streamlining of digital subscriptions, all the things we do every year to make sure that what we're using, we're really using, especially if we're, paying for them. The next few slides have lots of words. Many of them have already been said at the school level, so I am going to breeze through them, but you can see specifics on teaching and learning. I'll just have you click through them to save some time. Professional development and all of our really structured, we have great PD plans in place. Meeting the needs of all learners, so again, this is our special education, ESL, social, emotional, and counseling, and you can see there's lots of great things happening there. Our technology budget, we've done leaps and bounds in technology in the past 5 years that I've been here. I mean, we were forced to do it because of COVID, but then really getting our own IT director a few years ago has allowed us not only to save money, but also to really plan for the future. So we have a very strong tech plan in place, and you can see, all of the specific things that it supports, as well as our E-rate program where we're gaining money back every year, which is wonderful. And now I'm going to welcome my colleague, Jordan Geist, to talk through the numbers and the pie charts and bring us home and take any questions.
She doesn't like saying numbers. That's what it comes down to. She's done a great job, so she can come up here and flub through the end for you all. It's a pie chart, people. It's pretty. I did that myself. So the FY '26 operating budget is $27,718,101. The vast majority of that is obviously made up by salaries across the board, student services, makes up the next bulk, and then everything from building operations to textbook and supplies makes up the rest. There's a couple of color-coded ones that if you hover over them, they tell you what they are, and I can't recall at this moment, or they should. Yeah, the next one, transportation, textbooks and supplies, and then that real tiny sliver is phys ed and athletics. Thank you for doing that. Isn't it wonderful how that works? Yeah. As Dr. Joe mentioned, supplementing the budget are offsets. I call them the big 3, which is circuit breaker, FR, and school choice, totaling $4,311,643. Circuit breaker at 1.4 million, school choice at just over $1 million, military mitigation at just under $1 million, and various other state and federal grants just over $500,000, as well as a number of small revolving funds at $152,000, just over. This just shows you the year-over-year increase. So FY '26 at 4. That doesn't account for the sped reserve transfer that went into this year's budget, so it's not technically a 4%, but it's a 4% over what was approved last year. And the budget summary, which is linked there, that's the line by line that you're more than welcome to glance through, showing year-over-year costs, budgeted and expended. And the next one is the final slide. 2 more. So it's a $27,718,638 budget, which is 4%, as I said, just over $1 million increase over the FY 2025 approved budget. I did a good job saying all those very large numbers, didn't I?
You did.
That's what I have.
At this late at night, it's past your bedtime.
I think what we got in our packet, that was provided for our packet, has some FY '25 numbers in it instead of FY '26 numbers. So, because I was looking at I've been looking at this and I'm going 26,652,000. I go, I don't think that's the right number. But so maybe we should all go to the website of the schools and download the.
Well, what it is here is if you click this one, it's the one that you and I had originally. If you click on this one, it's the one that's on the screen, so it can be confusing. So,
Okay.
so, I mean, the one online that says PDF version is I think the older version. It's always, I can see where the confusion could lie.
Yeah, it might be from last year and we keep it up there, but I see the
Yeah.
confusion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
good.
again,
This
I
was
do
great.
apologize.
I mean,
No,
this
no,
is-
yeah.
Anybody wants a hard copy, not in color, I have one for
If
you.
I had a nickel for every time I had a
gotta
presentation,
add it
I
to my
shouldn't
pile.
share the right copy. I'd
I
be
like
rich.
line items,
Oh, 2 ounces.
my tabs.
Quite often.
So, thank you. It sounds, it's a good presentation. There's a lot of really excellent, exciting things happening. And I just want to say the equity for athletic and transportation fees, I think is a great thing.
Yeah.
I really, really do. And I'm going to say that about 20 years ago, when I was at that podium and talking to the select board, it was actually about like a plowing issue. And I said, I'm willing to pay for plowing as long as there's the students in school are paying for transportation and athletic fees, because I did it when I was a kid. It was, it was included. So it's a really great move, and I'm really happy. Took 20 years, but it's good. Thank you.
Yeah, I was very excited to see that. I appreciate the level of detail in the budget because, at the end of the day, it's a one-town budget. And to have an understanding of where the taxpayer dollars are being sent down to the level of detail that you've given us is very much appreciated. It hasn't gone unnoticed. And I'm very excited about the district strategic plan coming to light soon. A lot of hard, good conversations. We collectively have addressed a lot of questions that the community has, that different governing bodies have about Bourne Public Schools, but it's certainly thriving, especially at the high school. I've seen some remarkable changes in what the high school has been able to provide students, and sometimes it's not about the numbers. It's about the quality and the opportunity for those students to have that really unique, almost, private education with public dollars is truly amazing. So, round of applause.
There's so much student choice, which is.
Exactly.
We're not going as freshmen and having our whole next 4 years mapped out for us,
Right.
Students have choice, so many choices.
Yeah, yeah.
Find out what they really want to do before they get
Yeah,
to the end.
we have a student intern, a senior, who's interning with us at our place of business because she has an interest in architecture, and it's such a great experience for us as a business and for her as well. So that alone, I think, having that opportunity at the high school level is remarkable.
We don't know of any other high schools where every senior has an internship.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
yeah, yeah.
If I may.
Yes, Melissa.
I mean, always, per usual, thank you for the presentation. It's always robust and fantastic. I think, for me, I think I can speak for, the parents in Bourne and the grandparents like myself. I mean, I have 3 children that attend your schools, and they're at Bourne Elementary, at Bournedale Elementary, the middle school, and coming up in the high school. So I just want to thank you for all the work you do. I mean, we should be really proud of how we care for our kids and our students. My children they love the school system, so I just want to add that.
Thank you.
It's not always about the money and that stuff, that's all.
It's good. All right. Any other questions, comments?
I do have breaking news.
Oh,
We won?
We won. We're going to.
Woohoo!
81-45 win.
Oh,
Fantastic.
Okay.
Wow, for us.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
That's painful for them.
Thank
Maybe
you
we'll
very
be
much.
going on a road trip again.
I know, and the,
Fan bus.
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, we drove, well, you drove.
yeah, we went to Lowell. It was fun.
Next is discussion, Council on Aging Department and Programming Update. Welcome.
Good evening. I'm Debbie Oliveri, the Council on Aging Director for Bourne, and per your request, I'm just coming in to give you a quick overview of what's going on at the Council on Aging and a couple of the programs. In our budget, we have 7 full-time employees, and we have 3 part-time grant-funded employees. For FY24, the Council on Aging had a total of 13,328 check-ins for the following programs and services: elder law consults, AARP tax assistance, Shine Counseling, which assists with Medicare, financial planning, fitness classes, health screenings, educational programs, recreational, social, cultural, arts programs, durable medical equipment loans, senior tax work-off programs, support groups, and we provide transportation for grocery shopping and medical appointments. We have an outreach team that provided 487 older adults with 1,439 units of service, including fuel assistance, SNAP applications, housing applications, homelessness, Knox boxes, making referrals to elder services for Meals on Wheels, grocery shopping, home care, and protective services. So in COVID, we kind of lost a couple of programs when we came back, and we did a survey back in 2021, and the 2 things that came up time and time again were to bring back the senior dining program and to bring back the supportive day program. I had no budget for that, so we had to find some creative ways to do that. It was in my goals to have it done by FY25. I'm proud to say we got it done by FY24. And I'm going to start with the Bridge Respite Program. So the Executive Office of Health and Human Services was offering grant opportunities to kind of reinvent respite care. So instead of just giving us the money, we had to kind of do a little song and dance for it. But anyways, I was able to get $57,000 to restart the program. We didn't receive the money until late 2024. I'm sorry, late 2023. And we were able to reopen the program in April. Since then, so this was specifically, the supportive day program was a little bit more for frail elders. So we had a variety of needs that went on in that. So, and it was open 5 days a week. We were able to start a program for dementia and Alzheimer's specific, because we had to pick a cohort to kind of target in on. So, and that's what we did. And it also, it is a safe, structured, stimulating environment while it gives the caregiver respite. And that's the goal. It's open Wednesdays and Thursdays from 10 to 2. We can accommodate up to 10 clients a day. The fee is $40 a day, and it includes lunch in the cafe, exercise, meditation, activities, and transportation for Bourne residents. The grant is coming to fruition this month, and so the 2 employees that are working in the respite program will now be transferred into the formula grant. And the fee that we've been taking goes into our revolving account, and that will pay for the expenses. Through April, I ran some numbers from April through February, just to give you, about 10 months. We've serviced 23 clients with 476 days of attendance. So we kind of hit our goals on that. We're pretty happy with that. Right now, there's about 10 to 9 clients that are attending, and there's 6 clients per day. So, but it's winter, and in that
Yep.
kind of cohort, they kind of ebb and flow in that. So The second program was the senior dining in the cafe. We reopened it in September of 2023, and the chef that we hired only stayed until December of 2023. So we had to kind of regroup, and we were lucky enough to find Jean Lanahan to take over. We hired her in March. We reopened the cafe in April, and that runs at the same time as the day program because you have to provide a meal. So we have it on Wednesdays and Thursdays. We have a lunch from 11:30 till 1 o'clock. We have one part-time person who oversees all of the shopping. She does all of the cooking. She trains the volunteers, executes, and clean up. And it's 19 and a half hours. It's a lot to get done. And like I said, she has a wonderful volunteer staff, and senior volunteers are great, and we rely on them quite a bit. We have about 15 that work in the cafe. But senior volunteers have hip replacements. Senior volunteers go to Europe for 3 weeks, their grandchildren come down. So, it's not like having a staff, but they do an amazing job, and she's really, really kind of brought them all together. So from April till February, the cafe served 592 consumers with 3,023 meals. So she's pretty popular. And we've added we started in October. We have one special luncheon a month. So we had like a Halloween luncheon, then we had a Thanksgiving, and, so on and so forth. And this week we have our St. Patty's Day. And we sell advance tickets, and we take up to 50 people, and we sell out every month. So, and we usually have entertainment, so it makes it really nice for the seniors.
How old
So-
do you have to be to attend?
60.
Oh, yes. I turn 60 tomorrow.
I want to address that too, because I get this question all the time. Why is it not 55? Why is it not 65? The reason is, in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, we get our formula grant funding through the state, which is a line item in the state's budget. And how the state calculates that is off of the last census, so we're going off of the US 2020 census. There were 7,331 older adults over the age of 60. So they give us funding for 60, and it's a dollar amount per person.
Right.
So that's why all of our language is 60. So just a couple of upcoming events that are happening. We have several cultural grants performers coming up, which is nice because we don't have to pay for them. So we have Roger Tinknell doing Irish music. We have the Awareness Project coming in for some folk music. We have a senior hip hop and R&B line dancing. We have Matt York coming in to do country music for the Father's Day luncheon, and they're all free of charge. So, and I also wanted to mention, because I always invite you all to the Volunteer Appreciation Day, that will be May 15th this year. So you will be getting invitations probably in April. So just a little bit of like where we're going, looking ahead. Like I said, we did a survey back in 2021, and so this year, we're halfway through this decade, I have tasked the COA Advisory Board with coming up with a survey. What do seniors want? After COVID, we have a whole new generation of seniors that are coming in that are very different from the greatest generation. You have more boomers here, and they have very different likes and dislikes. So, we kind of want to see what we get for feedback with that. I'm looking ahead to, the possible bridge reconstruction and what that's going to look like. I have one full-time driver. I have 2 buses, but just one driver. And, the longer she's with us, the more vacation time she has, sick time. I would really like to add a part-time driver to help, and I feel like we're going to be in gridlock once that starts. So I'm looking ahead to next year, maybe adding a part-time driver. I think the cafe is becoming popular enough that we would like to expand the kitchen supervisor's hours so she can manage that a little better. And maybe next year, put her in the budget and give her some more hours because she's right at 19 and a half hours. And that would free up some formula grant money so I could hire a driver. The RTA, we're scheduled to get a new vehicle either later this year or next spring. So, you know, it would be great if we had a driver for the second vehicle next year. So those are my goals coming up next year. So if you have any questions or comments? That's good. No?
I can say from personal experience, you know, being in and out of the building throughout the year, that you all do amazing
Oh, thanks.
over there. I mean, really, and I hear from my elder residents all the time, you know, I know how great you all do and how they're grateful for the services. And they can't say enough positive things about Jean. You
Yeah,
know.
I know. She's been a big hit. Yep.
I mean, you know, and I'm glad you're talking about trying to increase her hours because she's overworked.
I know she is.
I know
I
for
know.
what she's doing over there.
Yep.
And if there's a way that we could try to increase the hours over there, her hours, it would maybe take some of her stress level down instead of trying to condense it all into that 19 and a half hours because.
It's hard to do. It's hard to manage. I know.
And I know the need for the driver. I realize that, you know, and then it's definitely needed. But I know you do great with what you have. You really do. You do. You know, our elders are very well advocated for, and
Thank you.
and so thank you for all that you do.
Okay. Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. Thanks for coming in and thanks for, oh, go ahead, Anne Marie.
Your respite daycare program, which is amazing, because I think Peter and I, we were in here on a break and we ended up in there and that program, observing.
not gonna
Is
do-
it limited to 2 days because of funding?
Yes.
Is there opportunity?
It's funding, and
to-
it's also that room, we use it for so many other programs. It's the availability of the room, too. If we do get a waiting list, I will look at adding another day. So, but I did bring you brochures for the respite program.
Oh,
too, so.
thanks.
Thanks very much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item is discussion of possible vote regarding letters of support or non-support of BEAD funding for Open Cape and Comcast.
Hi there,
Good evening.
I'm Jed Johnson, I'm the Site Tech Committee Vice Chair, I can speak to the letters. So as brief background, Massachusetts Broadband Institute is offering up some grant programs for improving internet access in municipalities for residential, commercial, and municipal buildings. We've had we've had requests for letters of support from Open Cape and Comcast for their grant applications. So the committee has prepared some proposed letters. I'll speak first to the one from Open Cape. So we've heard from Open Cape that they're planning to extend internet access out to Bassett's Island to at least 2 of the residents out there. And in addition, they're proposing to connect at least 2 or 3 community anchor institutions to their fiber optic network. The committee feels these are great projects. We'd like to see the town get behind them and encourage them. So we've prepared a letter of support to MBI for the funding for Open Cape. So let me pause and we can talk about that one before we move on to Comcast.
So the letters are in your packet, and we had received a select board letter from Steve Johnston from Open
Oh,
Cape
Steve. Oh, there
requesting
he
a
is.
letter of support. So I think they're offering, what they're offering is a high level of service, right? It's, and I have to get it in the right letter.
High-speed symmetrical service and robust network expansion.
Right. And one of the things that they've done in Buzzards Bay, because they have primarily do business, but, and once they connect to business, if there's residences on the way or in the building, they will connect residences. So one thing that would be good about them doing the community anchor institutions, and I thought there were more. Are there more than?
There are 57.
Is-
Yeah.
So the rules of BEAD require you to. Sorry.
Yeah.
I need to-
Sorry, Steve, if I knew you were here, I would have let you introduce.
So the rules of the
Introduce
state.
yourself.
Oh, I'm Steve Johnston,
Oh,
Chief
welcome.
Executive Officer,
Open Gate.
Executive Director of Open Cape. I will say before I start, I have a son. My middle son is starting as a freshman at Mass Maritime. I will take his car keys away. I was literally just texting.
Hate that.
Yeah,
No
it's
car.
a big issue. very, very quickly, the rules for BEAD for the state, it's $147 million they have, although we don't know they're actually going to get it, so I'm not even going to go there.
Yeah.
But in order to apply, we have to connect any broadband serviceable locations, which you have 2 that were not covered in the last round. They happen to be on Bassett's Island. And then I have to connect those 2, and then there are, I think it's 57 community anchor institutions. So for us, what that would do, it would allow me to build our fiber deeper into Bourne,
Right.
both on both sides of the bridge, which then creates some very interesting possibilities for residential down the road, because for me, the cost of building is significant. And as a not-for-profit organization, you know, even though we generate substantial revenue, we plow that all back into the network. I just spent $1.2 million upgrading our network this year alone. So this is an interesting opportunity, and since we already have the PON technology that you referenced on Main Street, we can do a lot of interesting things if we can get the mass broadband funds.
So I think this would be a great opportunity for us to support. So one of the questions I had when we did the gap letters, we wrote them to the entity that asked us for the letter. So we didn't write directly to MBI. We wrote to Open Cape and said, you know, we're pleased to support, the town of Bourne is pleased to support.
I forget, but you wrote to Comcast and Verizon.
Right, yeah, but whatever entity asked us, we wrote to that entity. And I just noticed that these letters are like to Mass MBI. Should we be sending them, should we send a letter to you saying we support you for you to submit with your application to MBI?
Yeah, that would be the ideal situation, because
Okay.
I have to forward that letter, I have to forward that letter with my application.
With the application,
Yeah,
right.
that's the
okay,
process.
Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah, okay.
All right.
So we have a letter in our packet, and it would go on town letterhead. I think if we are going to do this, the motion should be to authorize the letter to Open Cape,
Yes.
providing support.
Thanks, Steve.
And
For
authorize
BEAD
the
Round 1
chair.
application.
Yeah, for the BEAD Round 1 application, and authorize the chair to sign on behalf of the select board.
So moved.
Second.
Can I give this to you to give to Kathleen? That's the addressee for that letter.
Okay. So it says that we're pleased to support the Round 1 application, and
Chair to sign.
prioritizing the deployment. So I think this is great. Any further discussion on this?
It's good stuff.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? It's unanimous. So we'll get that letter done and get it back to you with the address that you provided
You can
in the.
email it to me, it's fine, like a PDF
Yeah.
is fine.
Yeah.
You've got my business card with.
Yeah, you sent us a letter, so we have the address for the Open Cape, and we'll
Fantastic.
get that.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much
you
for
very
coming
much.
in.
Yeah.
Thanks for being so patient through everything.
No problem.
It's a lot of infrastructure, but it's quality infrastructure,
should
and
know
that's the difference, right? I mean,
Yes, it's significantly better than anything.
Right.
I mean, if you've talked to the people on Main Street that we've connected so far, and we're gonna connect more, people really like it, so
Great.
this will be more of the same. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for coming.
No problem.
We're happy to write the letter. Okay. Next.
Okay, moving on. First, before I go forward, Bob asked that I introduce the committee members here. We got Bob Dwyer, Chair, Wendy Hollins, the Clerk, Brian McCart is online, myself, Vice Chair, and then our fifth member is John Frank. So with Comcast, first, if you remember, we did a support letter for Comcast for the Gap Network round back in the fall, I think. And in that letter, we conditioned it with them. We said, we'll support you if you come in and do some network upgrades in town. So since then, Comcast has publicly announced they're doing network upgrades in Falmouth, and they're doing network upgrades in Mashpee. And there's been no public announcement about any network upgrades in Bourne. We've asked Comcast to tell us about their network upgrade plans for BEAD, and we've got nothing back. So basically, it doesn't look like they're doing anything in town right now. Couple other things I want to mention is that when we did the franchise agreement for cable TV, March 2022, in that agreement, they're supposed to provide hardware upgrades to Bourne Community TV. The deadline is in about 20-something days.
March 31st.
Much-
Yeah,
yeah.
and as of last week, there's been no equipment provided at all. The other thing that's happened recently, we've heard from a number of residents in town about some changes to the channel lineup with respect to regional sports channels. In the franchise agreement, Comcast is supposed to provide 30 days' notice to the town when there's ever any major change to the channel lineup. As far as we know, there was no notice. We've heard some residents tell us they didn't find out till they went to go watch a Celtics game or a Bruins game. There's also been a lot of confusion about the channel plans now and the cost and things like that. So given all of this, the committee's recommending a letter of non-support to Comcast for the BEAD funding. And in addition, the committee's recommending that we rescind the letter of support for the GAP network funding. Questions, comments?
I do have a comment, and there is a letter, second to last paragraph in this letter. Further, we are withdrawing our letter of support for Comcast for the GAP Networks grant program as of the date of this letter. And I'm going to recommend that we don't put that in this letter, that we write our concerns to MBI in a separate letter, and then see if those can possibly be resolved, and then take the step of withdrawing. And the reason that I say that is I had a conversation with Michael Baldino, who's general counsel at MBI, and he was concerned about the effects of withdrawing the support in terms of it not being, once we withdrew it, not being able to reinstate it. So he would really like us to handle it as a separate issue. So I strongly advise that we write the letter of non-support and then do a separate letter that would indicate to MBI that we have concerns about Comcast's grant of the GAP piece of it based on our conditions, and then handle that as a separate issue. So.
But, yeah.
Sounds good.
I make a motion that we not support Comcast with a letter for the BEAD Round 1
Second.
application. I think that's an important decision. We'll get to the logistics of
Yeah.
the letter after.
So not support Comcast for the BEAD.
Correct.
Okay.
Not submit a letter of support for Comcast for BEAD Round 1 application.
So do we want to submit a letter of non-support, or do we want to, because the letter is going to go to Comcast. It's not going to go to MBI. The letter is going to go to Comcast.
I don't know that, well.
Because Comcast
do we-
wrote us.
Do we, right, so do we say the reasons why we're not supporting them in that BEAD, in that letter?
Right, so Mike Gala wrote, and Marlene, was when Marlene was on vacation, and Liz got the letter, forwarded to SciTech, asked for the recommendation, and then SciTech said, letter of non-support. So what the letter that we would be writing, similar to the letter that we're writing to Open Cape, is that we would write to Comcast and say that you requested an unconditional letter of support, and because we can't review the plan and verify your commitment, that we are not supporting.
Right,
And then I would not put in the part about the gap
right,
and in this letter.
right.
Unless you want to say further, we have concerns about Comcast plans under the GAP network program. And so,
I think the letter's gonna serve two purposes. If we perhaps rewrite that second bullet, and maybe along the lines of, and maybe the conversation will happen on Thursday, but maybe along the lines of, that, we have significant concerns and are considering rescinding our letter.
Okay.
And then we pose a letter to MBI, the reasons, our concerns about Comcast, and the same, for that reason, we are considering. And if it brings both parties to the table, that's gonna be a win-win.
So, and I think I've been thinking about who these letters go to. So if we write back to Comcast, who asked us for a
respond to
letter of
Comcast.
support, we respond and say, we are not supporting you we're not writing a letter of support because you haven't been responsive to us.
Right.
And furthermore, we are considering withdrawing our letter of support for Comcast for the Bede Grandwurst Network.
Right, I think that should
Due
be
to-
short and sweet.
We have concerns and are considering.
Right,
We-
that should be short
yeah,
and sweet.
we
And then the letter
have-
to MBI should be,
Well, and I think the letter to MBI is a separate issue.
It is.
That SciTech needs to advise us on as a separate letter.
Okay.
right.
Okay.
All right, yeah.
And I think you had some things, but I think short and to the point, exactly what the issues are, no other commentary.
Try to keep
So,
it to one page.
right. So furthermore,
So,
we have concerns about, we have concerns about the GAP networks grant and are
Considering
considering
rescinding the letter of support,
or withdrawing our letter.
or withdrawing, yeah.
Considering withdrawing. Right, our letter
The GAP network.
of support for Comcast for the grant networks,
For the GAP network.
for the GAP
GAP
Networks
network.
grant program, period, not
Yes.
as of this,
Yes.
just period. No,
Yeah.
no as of the date. And that letter's gonna go to Comcast, and then a separate letter will be drafted to MBI that will explain, we could explain both to them. We could explain that we didn't write a letter of support and that we have
Considering.
concerns, and, or just, maybe we'll just do, he knows we're not. The letter of support is part of the application process, and so that's why he had concerns about if we withdrew the letter of support, what the ramifications of that would be immediately and whether it could be unsupported. So I think this is good. Does it sound good to?
Yeah.
Yeah, just to emphasize, since we sort of formed SciTac, and even before when we had a committee under the Canal Chamber of Commerce, several of us have been kind of being a touchstone for hearing complaints from residents all around Bourne about just generally various layers of poor service from Comcast. And the general impression people were getting is that they were being taken for granted as a customer who pay hundreds of dollars a month in some cases for this service. And these grant opportunities are really a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, frankly, to hold Comcast's feet to the fire. And if they get these grants, to really nail down, put in stone exactly what is expected. And if they can't do that, then, frankly, I think you ought to go forward with withdrawing the letter of support for the previous grant and let the chips fall where they may. The money isn't going to disappear. It's going to be in a BEAD round 2 or something like that. And that, and again, if we don't get what we want with this meeting and what's written down at that meeting, you have an opportunity to go forward and pull that other one too, pull that other letter.
So I think, and I had the letter, the original letter of support that we wrote to Comcast, supporting them for GAP. I had that put in the packet. So that's how we will address this letter of non-support that he requested. And so the motion, I think that was made by Anne Marie and
Yes.
seconded by Melissa again.
Melissa?
Yeah,
Yeah. That was the first one was.
that's okay. I was still thinking, I was like, did I?
Yeah, I don't know.
But it
I
doesn't make
petered
it,
it,
it doesn't
yeah.
make
It's
it.
getting late.
Oh,
My
it was
brain.
Peter. It was
It's
Peter.
about-
Okay.
It's 30 minutes.
Sometimes
I'm
I don't
at
write
8
fast
most of
enough.
the nights,
Okay.
right? So.
You did the
I'm
first one.
slow. I'm a little slow.
No, it's all right. It was it's second
fine.
by Peter.
That's
Was the second one for the Comcast? It's to write a letter of non-support to Comcast as drafted by the SciTech, as recommended by SciTech, with a change in the second to last paragraph. Just state that furthermore, we have concerns about the GAP Networks grant and are considering withdrawing our letter of support to Comcast for the GAP Networks grant program, period. Okay. And authorize the chair of the select board to sign on behalf of the select board.
Yes.
Yes.
We good? Okay. Motion by any further discussion? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? It's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you very much. And, yeah, so then that next step is to, work on the letter, because I think in the conversations that I've had with Mr. Baldino, the concept of the underserved that are being rolled into being challenged underserved that are being rolled into that GAP network may end up with, a lower level of service for a long time. So I think it is something that we really want to address. That's really the concern. Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate your all your work on this. Next, a review of annual town meeting articles.
So in the board's packet, there is an early draft of the warrant. I have not included any motions yet, but I would like to start getting some initial feedback on the articles for the annual town meeting.
Yes.
The first article is the consent agenda, which is comprised of the regular required authorizations, the elected officials' salaries, Chapter 90 revolving funds, and accrued contractual compensated absences. So that's a fairly standing article with those items.
Before we move on, right? Is that, we're going to do them one at a time, right? Is that the first one? Yeah, so did you have something you wanted to say, Peter?
Sure, let's talk about number 2, elected official salaries, B and C, which is our own stipend. For the last 10 years, we have not taken a
Okay, I found this on the web for less.
What the
Siri's listening.
Siri.
Let me turn this damn thing off first.
I just tell her this. Don wasn't talking to her.
Hang on, I'm shutting this off.
That's right.
I don't let Siri hear what I say at all.
I was using it for the calculator, and then it did. Our salaries are $35.70, and the chair is $45.90. We have not taken any raise of any sort since 2015, and we did that because we were in the process of having cutbacks. So we wanted to lead by example. I think with the way things are these days, with the cost for the things that we procure out of that money, print and toner, paper, gas to go to these meetings, I think asking for a 2.5% raise for the first time in 10 years, I think is a reasonable request. If we do approve the 2.5% raise, increase, for the 5 of us, it would be $471.75 total. What it is at 2.5% is $89.25 for 4 members each, which would be $357. And for the chair, it would be $114.75. So if you break it down per month, it's roughly $7.43 per month for us for an increase, or for the chair, $9.52 increase.
Won't spend it all in one place, right?
I mean, it to me is just symbolic, things are costing more, and we're paying out of our costs to do these things, so I think it's a reasonable request to consider the 2.5% increase.
Well, since on Bourne residents page, there was a question as to whether we
Apparently,
meet.
we're making six figures.
Does the select board make $30,000 or more like $105,000? That was the question, and I kind of laughed and I said, "Oh yeah, well, let's tell you, I take home $283.52 a month." So I don't know. What do you guys think?
I mean, I'm for it. I think
we should.
it's not like it's not a lot of money.
Right.
so-
I
don't
I take a
know.
different take on it. I was
mean,
elected
I was
to
thinking,
serve
like,
the
for that
community,
much,
and
is it
I don't
even
put a
worth
price
it,
tag
right?
on that.
Yeah.
Well,
You know,
it's not that much, so.
Well, so the moderator, what is it? The moderator get 2.5% or 2%?
The moderator has remained unchanged.
Oh, I thought the moderator in the town.
The only adjustment that
Few
is
bucks. I
made
know, I guess it
is
doesn't
to
matter.
the town clerk.
Well,
Oh.
Yeah.
And how much does the town clerk get?
47,000.
No, percentage increase.
2.5%.
So, it used to be that there were like two items, right? There was a $1,500 stipend, and then there was an expense where you had to submit your expenses. And then the select board said, well, that's a lot of work, just put it into one thing, but it's really expenses. I mean, when you really think about, I don't know, toner and $150 a piece, which I moved to like, it's up to you guys.
Well, but maybe Anne Marie spends that on hers, 'cause she likes everything printed.
Well, I'll make a motion that we increase the moderator, the select board, and the moderator and the select board's budget by 2.5%.
So I have a motion by Peter for moderator and select board and chair of select board, right?
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Peter, second by Jean. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nope.
I'll say no too.
I didn't vote.
Didn't hear an aye,
I'm gonna vote yes. We'll make it 3-2.
Thank
I
you.
think it's 2.5%.
That's what voting's about.
Okay, next.
Thank you.
Are we doing the list here and then going to committee reports? Did you have more? Are you going the list, or you have going through the warrant in a different order?
I'm following the list on the agenda.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
The next article is the standing article for committee reports. So, this is just to let you know that it is included in
Yep.
the warrant. And then the next article on the agenda is, we don't have the motion yet, but we will be recommending transfer of free cash to the stabilization fund. And if Erica would like to add anything about the stabilization fund.
Hi, Erica.
Good evening, everyone. I don't have anything specific to add. We are currently meeting our policy, which is a minimum of 6%. The balance as of 12/31 was $5.197 million. And I'd like, to continue moving towards that 10%. So I'd probably be looking to recommend around $200,000.
Yeah, what's the goal for the stabilization? Is it?
Not more than 10%.
Okay. Okay, any question on that? Okay. Moving right along, capital stabilization.
Yep, there will be a recommendation to transfer funds into capital stabilization as well.
Okay. Erica, do you know how much is in capital stabilization now? Because we just took a bunch out, right?
Yep, we took out the 1.75 for the purchase of the land. So I do have it here. We're at, again, this is on or about 12/31 minus the 1,750,000. We're at 1,681,000, give or take, some investment income. So in this article, we'd be looking to kind of fund the 5th-year debt payment that we were using that fund for. So according to that schedule, that amount would be approximately 288,000 from free cash.
Okay. So that's from free cash into the capital stabilization.
Correct.
Okay.
The next article on the agenda is the result of a discussion from the OPEB trustees, and that is to move a small ISWIM stabilization fund of approximately $500,000 into the ISWIM OPEB trust fund to essentially prepay some of that liability.
So years, I don't know if you were all familiar with the ISWIM future solid waste. So before we had the long-term contract with Covanta for the ash, and before we had the site assignment for extending the life of the landfill, there were concerns about whether the ISWIM was gonna be there to support the budget. We get a lot of money every year from ISWIM. So the select board set aside this, future solid waste stabilization, which has kind of been sitting there for a number of years. But there is the OPEB liability that ISWIM has is not totally funded. And what this would end up doing is moving that future solid to the liability of OPEB to help, I don't know how close it's gonna come to fully fund the OPEB liability for OPEB, but it does a couple of things. It strengthens, it increases it's not really the ISWIM OPEB trust fund, I mean, it's gonna strengthen our trust fund, it'll be a good piece, and it's a good use of funding a future liability for ISWIM that we would have to pay as a town if something happened to ISWIM if it's not fully funded. So it seems like a really good move as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. Are you going to totally deplete that, what's ever in there, or are you going to leave that as I just take whatever the balance is and close that stabilization, maybe?
I think it makes sense to deplete the balance and move it entirely into the OPEB trust fund.
Yeah.
The balance is just over $581,000 for the accumulation of interest.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions about that? Okay, next item.
The next item is the Human Services Grant Program, and I'll defer to Deb.
Hi, Debbie Oliveri. I'm the co-chair for the Human Services Committee. The Human Services Committee is proposing an increase in funding for this grant program to $40,000, citing factors such as the rising cost of living, increased annual requests, and higher printing costs for the resource guide. Historically, from 2001 to 2019, the funding levels fluctuated between $26,000 and $48,000. In 2020, the program was transitioned into a grant model, excluding the VNA, and that was taken out and put into the health department's budget, right? And we were reduced to $20,000, and we have remained at that for the subsequent years. The committee emphasizes the importance of this funding, especially since Bourne does not have a designated human services department. The Human Services Committee is responsible for recommending policies and potential programs related to the delivery of human services in Bourne. So that's what we're proposing. We've talked about this last year, MJ, and I do have numbers if you want them. I didn't know I was doing this tonight until I looked at the agenda. So I didn't send you anything, but I do have the last 3 years, the requests and what we awarded them. And then I do have a spreadsheet that goes from 2001 to
Yeah,
date.
I think that would be good, just to see the numbers.
Yep.
I do know that when I was on, for a long time, the Finance Committee representative on the Human Services Committee. And, I mean, there's a lot of really good programs. I mean, there's the food pantry, but there's also Gosnold and, a lot of other programs that
Alzheimer
are.
family, elder services.
Right, that,
Big brother, big sister, there's a lot.
Yeah, so if we're not funding what the community is asking for, I think an increase would be good if we, that's good. And the times are difficult now, so I would support that.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
You, Deb.
Thank you. Next.
The next 3 items on the agenda, I'd like to really some direction and some discussion with the board about if you want to fund these at the May town meeting and at what level you would want to fund these items. So the first one is updating the town seal. And if you would like to set aside some budget of free cash for that work. The next one is.
Let's do them one at a time. Let's do them one at a time.
I think it's too early for the town seal. I think the historical commission needs to, through Melissa, need to, to decide what they want to do first before we start putting any money into it.
I know Steve had mentioned, when I met with Steve, he did mention that he had thought he had hoped to maybe get something, I thought, in spring, but for maybe the process. So like how to do it. You may need a consultant. There's people that help Mashpee do their seal. But I'd have to talk with him in the Historic Commission because we've only had that one conversation. It might be too soon. I don't want to say that without asking, let the Historic Commission weigh in, maybe,
Yeah, I think it was about a year ago when we asked the Historic Commission to get back to us in June for last June. For like what they wanted to do. And I would rather not get into this discussion at this town meeting. We have a lot of big discussion items at this town meeting. So I would recommend that we wait to get something back from the Historic Commission about how they want to go about doing this, and then we consider putting it on the fall.
We got to create a budget, and we got to work together, so its timing there's probably not enough time.
Yeah, let's put that on for the fall.
Yeah.
Let's consider that for the fall. Agreement?
I'd rather do it right than rush it, yes.
Funding the Charter Review Committee, did you get money?
We had a little bit, we did. Because we ended up doing like some publications and surveys and things like that.
So, do you think we should try to fund that now, or do you think we should set up the committee and have them ask us for money in the fall?
Well, it's just a
Well, the
5-year.
committee should be in existence now.
No,
2025.
Yeah, but we establish it after town meeting. The 2025 committee is established after town meeting, and then reports to the next town meeting. You guys weren't even established until September. And, yeah.
Yeah, we were late. We were late. We took a long time. Because we asked for an extension. We didn't even get it done in a year. We ended up asking for an extension, which we can. according to the charter.
So, I mean, we could start advertising for them now, but I don't know what to ask for.
Wait for the summertime, wait to the fall on the funding.
Yeah.
It wasn't a lot of money, was it?
No,
No, it wasn't, but still,
no.
at least you have a better idea once the committee's established what they're looking for.
Right.
I'd say wait for the fall.
That makes the most sense.
Because if we get the money in October, then they'll have plenty of time to do their surveys or do whatever.
Yeah.
They have to kind of figure out what they're doing. I say wait for the fall. Okay, next.
Future work at the CWMP.
CWMP?
We know we're gonna need that, right?
Yeah.
We are definitely gonna need that.
Yes.
We are definitely gonna need that.
The question I have is if we're not, if, and after looking at all the work, if we're not happy with, if we feel that this report that, the CWMP is not accurate based on what we have done, and we want to start over again.
I think this is
I think, yeah,
the
this is not a
CWMP is a
discussion to have right now.
discussion
Yeah, I was just
for
gonna
next
say that.
Tuesday. We're having a workshop to
10
discuss
and
the
9, 5 and 9,
CWMP.
too.
I think we definitely want an article at the special town meeting for additional funding for the CWMP.
We just don't know how much yet.
So last time I went through capital, do you feel this is a capital item that has to go through capital?
Yes, my guess is that you will be requesting more than $25,000.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that we should,
25 is not gonna cut it.
I don't know if we'll have I mean, and I don't know, I mean, if we're saying we're gonna have something, then we could put a placeholder in and then decide like how much afterwards? I mean, or do you wanna put it on the special? I think we might wanna put it on the special.
Yeah.
I think we might want to put it on the special because I think we're going to have to start we're out of money and we want to be able to spend the money. Right?
ASAP,
Do we
yeah.
have to wait? If we do free cash on the annual, can we spend it or do we have to wait till July?
No, you would wait until July.
We have a little bit of balance left.
Not,
I know, but again,
I didn't say, did you say we wouldn't wait till July?
you would have to.
You
Yeah.
have to wait.
So I'm going to say that that the CWMP should go on the special. So that if we need to start working, continuing work, we have money.
Yes.
And if we have to go out to a new RFP, then we have funding we have funding, so. What do you think? Do you want it on the annual, or do you think the special, or what do you think?
I'm okay with putting it on the special. I think it could possibly take some time and effort to put together a scope and a budget. Given what we received back today,
Yeah.
I think that, I think we have to, I think it's going to be hard to determine what that number is and what the path forward is by the time, we have to print the books.
Well, I think if we put it on the special, and then we don't have the motion by the time we do the books, then we'll just keep working on it till we have a recommendation at town meeting. Right? That's kind of a plan. We'll know more next week. Let's just say we definitely want to have an article at the town meeting. We'll determine next week whether it's annual or special, and then what our process is. But we definitely need money, so yes, on that one.
The next one is an article to set aside some money from free cash. I'm gonna recommend $50,000. And it's to cover one-time expenses that really should not be put in department's operating budget, but they're for small items that don't reach the capital threshold. So we've run into this just a handful of times, and we've put them on as separate standalone articles. But that seems a little bit burdensome for, a $5,000 of fence work, to have a standalone separate article for. So this is something I would like the board to consider. So we can fund small one-time items, but not put them in the operating budgets.
Okay, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay, next.
Just general expenses that,
Well, I mean, we did something, but, you know, those things are gonna come up, and, I mean, if
Right,
they're
and they have to
unexpected, they
wait,
can go to
right.
reserve fund transfer, but if, we have to kind of figure out the mechanism and what it is, so.
yeah,
It's
it's almost
weird.
like a little petty cash.
Right, yeah.
It's like a petty cash. It asks like petty cash to be able to.
Can you do that, Erica, or do you have to set it aside as a stabilization fund?
So we'd be looking for, as we noted, like an article, and these would be things that are not emergencies, that are identified during the budget process, but they're just a one-time expense, like, so say you need like a piece of office equipment that costs $2,000, like a shredder or something.
Okay.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean, so that we're not putting in the operating, it doesn't meet the requirements of a capital item, so it's
Yeah.
still isolated, and it
Yeah.
gives us some flexibility with that, and we're not having to go to capital for these, we're not gonna go to capital for these small things, but we don't wanna put them in the budget.
But, would it be like an itemized thing, like, you know what you're buying? Or,
I think it would be, like Marlene said, we'll establish like $50,000, and there would be an approval process through the administration's office and finance.
Okay.
all right.
Yeah.
I don't know the whole process.
I'm just not
So
sure,
if if the
I-
fire department needs a shredder or whatever, it's not in their operating budget.
right, but
they have-
there's a weird rule about having those things, like weird funds set aside. I just check into like what kind of a fund it is, that's all. There's no such thing as municipal petty cash.
Slush funds. General use.
All right, next is adopt prudent investor rules.
Before we move on,
Okay.
I want to be very clear that part of the reason why we are suggesting this is so we do not start using reserve fund transfers inappropriately.
No, I don't want a reserve fund transfer. I agree with you. I agree with the concept of the fund. I just know that we used to have the capital stabilization fund was not originally a capital stabilization fund. It was a capital fund. And then there was some DOR ruling that all those funds that you set aside like that have to be stabilization funds. So it just struck in my mind that there's some rule about what kind of funds you can set up. And maybe you can do it and it's fine, and I'm just imagining things, but I just,
I'll run it by
yeah,
DOR.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's all.
Some mistake
That's all.
here.
I think that would be awesome. So,
Thank
thank you. So, and I get the idea. I think it's a good idea. Because I don't like, putting the $5,000 thing in an operating budget, because then you have to remember the next year to take it out. Or give it to someone else,
yeah.
and it's just, it just
No,
futzes
I
things up. Yeah.
get it.
All right, then. So we think it's a good idea.
Yes.
We just want to do it right.
Yes.
Adopt prudent investor rules. Erica.
Okay, so, in 2023, the governor signed into law, which provides the use of the prudent investor rules for trust funds. So this basically will give us some more diversification of how we invest our funds, which can lower risk and increase returns. Frankly, we're already utilizing these through loopholes where our investment advisors want us to formally adopt the prudent investor rules, just so that there's no question about how we're investing our funds. So it will really be no change, it's just getting the appropriate acceptance on the books.
That sounds good. And I was noticing that we do well in our OPEB trust fund, investor-wise.
We don't
Yeah, we do. Thank you. Okay, Adopt Heroes Act.
Again, these are some new exemptions that have been available that will be via local acceptance for veterans. So the Board of Assessors will be meeting in this month and kind of deciding which avenue they want to go, because there are different things that you can choose, and then they'll make a recommendation.
Okay,
So it's for the abatement of real estate taxes.
okay. That sounds good. Is that a pretty standard thing to just accept the legislation, or is it more complicated than that? Is that what it
You
is?
accept the legislation and there's certain percentages, so you could go the full 100% or there's different amounts that could be, voted. So
Okay.
that's what we're looking at now.
Okay,
Because it will, it will hit our tax rolls and our allowance for vacant account.
okay. And then M, any other budget adjustments?
We don't have any budget adjustments to bring forward tonight. We are still catching up, and with the unions, we're working with all 8 groups, and we're very busy with costing out all of those proposals. It is our goal to start settling so we can put those numbers in the operating budget for FY26 and come forward to you with those MOAs and with the budget adjustments, but we're not quite there yet.
Okay, I have a thought, and I think it was the Charter Review Committee that kind of prompted it. Based on like what we have like considering for this town meeting, if we move forward with, I'm going to call it a municipal facility building committee instead of a permanent building committee. If we move forward with that kind of committee, I'm wondering if we should put some money in the budget for a recording secretary for that committee. And I think that building committee, especially if we have one building committee, that doing the minutes of a building committee properly to accurately record all the motions and the amounts and the invoices and the change orders is really important. So I just want to think about, would like you to think about that. Because I know that Kim Johnson did, when we had the police building committee, she was the recording secretary for that. And she was the recording secretary for the wastewater building committee. And I think that for a building committee, it's important to have someone that's really doing the minutes. I don't know what you have in budget, but that's just something I'd like you to think about.
So I will look, I'll look at adjusting or increasing the recording secretary budget line. It's all in one.
Yes, no, I understand that. But with the idea that that would be, that committee, if it's established, would have a paid recording secretary as opposed to a volunteer committee member.
Yes.
Okay. Next is town administrator's report.
Thank you. I'd like to remind the public that the deadline for dog licenses is March 31st. If anyone has questions on how to license your dog, please contact the town clerk's office. There is currently a public comment period open for the Recreation Committee's feasibility study for Chester Park, Clark Field, Keith Field, and the Pecasset Recreation Area. Information about the study can be found on the Recreation Department's website, along with a link to submit ideas and comments for consideration. The Recreation Committee encourages everyone to submit their thoughts by March 11th. The Barnstable County Home Consortium is conducting a housing needs survey for the 2025 through 2029 consolidated plan. The survey is available on the Cape Cod Commission's website, and the deadline to submit responses is March 7th. The town recently put the roof at Fire Station 3 out to bid. Town meeting authorized $765,000 for this project on October 21st, 2024. We received very competitive response, with 14 bidders submitting proposals and a low bid of $380,000. We have finished our responsibility and reference checks, and I am in the process of awarding the contract to MDM Engineering Company. We are planning on a pre-construction meeting in late March and a project start on or around April 21st, with substantial completion hopefully by the end of June. The conservation agent and I attended an interagency meeting of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or FERC, for the gas main relocation project that is necessary for the replacement of the Cape Cod bridges. The gas main project is in a pre-filing status, and the docket number is PF25-4. Currently, the project route will impact an important piece of town-owned property known as Sacrifice Rock. The town purchased this property using land bank funds, and it is protected under Article 97 of the state constitution. The land contains significant ecological, cultural, and archaeological resources. It will be important for the town to engage and actively participate in this process as it moves forward. The town departments are fully operational after the disruption of the cyber incident that occurred earlier in the year. There may be a few latent issues to correct along the way, but all major systems have been restored, and we have made significant security and redundancy improvements during the restoration process. We continue to cooperate with our law enforcement partners and have a process of determining what sensitive information may have been compromised. Physical letters are being mailed to people whose data could possibly have been compromised. Those letters contain information about how to enroll in credit and identity monitoring services. Letters will be issued on a rolling basis as we review the town's files to determine what data may have been accessed illegally. We have also provided notice to the Attorney General's office and the Office of Consumer Affairs and Business Regulation. State law specifies that the notices cannot disclose the nature of the incident or the number of people affected. This prohibition is found at MGL Chapter 93H, Section 3B, as in Bravo, and is intended to discourage, quote, copycat attacks. I can report to the board, though, that no ransom was paid in connection with the attack on the town of Bourne's property. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is minutes of January 21st, 28th, February 4th, and February 11th.
Motion to approve all those minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Peter, second by Jean. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, abstentions? It's unanimous. Okay. Committee reports?
I have something to read regarding the fire station. For the Southside Fire Station Committee, at our February meeting, the committee voted to recommend supporting the $18.8 million project for the May 2025 town meeting. 8 documents have been uploaded to the website to allow residents to see documents provided to the committee, including a January 21st, 2025 draft master plan schedule. The committee will discuss forming a subcommittee to work on a marketing plan to provide residents with additional information. This will include a questions and answers section on the website and an update to the program needs document to include square footage of the building with space and equipment space needs. Our next meeting will be Friday, March 14th at 1 p.m. The project architect has completed the project programming and square footage analysis and will be presenting this to the committee along with early conceptual site plans, floor plans, and early preliminary estimates. And we invite the public to attend.
When was that meeting you said?
It will be Friday, March 14th at 1 p.m. In person and I think both by Zoom. We'll be able to do that.
There's going to be a quorum we should post.
Yeah.
So let me know if you're planning on going, and I'll post to attend if there's going to be a quorum.
Thank you.
SciTech's been hard at work, but I
Yeah.
updated you tonight. And then just Peter and I on the district strategic plan. Our final meeting is March,
Yeah.
in a couple of weeks. Next week, the 12th?
Yeah.
The 12th is our final meeting, so, yeah, they'll be putting together a final draft of the Bourne Public Schools District Strategic Plan at that point.
Awesome.
Because we'll have that meeting that morning, and the two of us have to go over to Mass Maritime that afternoon for the bridge
Oh,
discussion.
DOT.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Correspondence?
Correspondence. That's my
Page 169, if you want to.
Yeah, just trying to scroll. There it is. Okay. For March 4th, 2025, Select Board's correspondence. A, Constable application, T. Dolby. B, Leo's Seafood Restaurant letter. C, public hearing notice, Herring Run Hotel LLC. D, Buzzards Bay Action Committee, FY26 Annual Assessment. E, Upper Cape Tech Minutes from January 9th, 2025. F, DEP Letter, Draft Final 2024 Source Removal Annual Report. G, DEP Letter, IAGWSP Comprehensive PFAS Report. H, DEP Letter, Draft Final Land Use Control Plan. I, DEP Letter, Draft May 2024 PFAS Sampling Event. And J, Xfinity Mass Form 500 and Annual Notice Filing. That's it.
Future agenda items related to correspondence and other future discussions. We did have the response from, the MEPA response from the filing for the CWMP was posted today. It's available to the public under recent decisions on the Mass DEP website. So it's, that's where it first goes, and then it goes into where the project is. So we have March 11th workshop.
We can't push that out
Push it out
a little bit later?
a little bit later during the day, or?
No, I just mean on a later date.
Another date.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
wouldn't bother me either because I've got so much.
It's just a lot, it's a huge document.
Yeah.
I'm concerned about Helen having enough time, our consultant, to really provide us with some
I'm not.
next steps, and now that we're thinking about more money, I mean, I think
I don't expect us to be able to have, I don't even sure,
it's a lot of information.
I don't think we're gonna go through that report and heave that. I think what we're gonna talk about is really like, what are our next steps?
That's what I'm saying, but I think this influences quite a bit on what we're going to be doing. I think it's money better spent if Helen has an opportunity to really thoroughly vet this and come to us and say, because it's not our responsibility to decide what the next steps is. It's the consultant's responsibility to tell us, and then we can, have a conversation on it. I just think because we just got it, I'm second guessing whether it's time-wise more valuable use of our time if we kind of.
So here's, and I'm fine with that. I think the board has to have a discussion about whether we're gonna continue with the SIM consultants.
Well, yes.
Yeah. Well, we do have
That
to
wouldn't
finish
be
the
this
contract. We do have to finish the contract, and this
Yes,
is
what-
part of that contract.
Right, but the contract only has like, what, $7,000 left?
Right, but this process is part of the contract.
That might be the final piece.
The process is part of the contract. If I read that contract correctly, the process is, and maybe
No,
Marlene can
through
weigh in.
filing the draft. I don't know.
Filing.
I don't know that responding. Marlene, do you have a comment on that? I mean, how much work is left for Apex to do based on the contract?
I do not have the contract in front of me, and I'm not prepared to
Talk about it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
all right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I personally would like a little more time to digest what we had.
Especially
Okay.
for what we just got, yeah. I agree.
All right then. When do you think you might want to do it?
There's the question.
Couple of weeks, the 25th.
That works.
I mean, can we even move it to April? I mean, is that too
Well, the
much to
question,
ask?
that when are we going to decide about money? I mean, we have to, you know, that we're going to have a town meeting article and
Right.
that we're going to have money. We'll figure out a date later. We won't set it now. We'll think about it.
Okay.
All right, so
So no meeting next week.
So we won't meet next week. The only other thing I wanted to do, and I can put it on another agenda, is that the Falmouth Water Quality Committee sent us recommended language for the legislation that they're trying to get to change the septic credit to be refundable, like, so that if you don't owe 2,000 in taxes or 8,000 in taxes, you can still get your $8,000 in septic credit. So I can put that on another agenda.
Okay.
So we can have it as a separate, on a separate discussion.
Okay. Before we get too far along, future agenda items, I did want to ask if we could speak about a standing building committee again.
Yeah, so it's either on April 1st or April 8th.
Okay.
And that's kind of how, I've kind of got it pegged in there. I think Marlene had it on April 8th, but I thought maybe April 1st. I'll definitely get it in there.
All right, thank you.
And the other thing that the library asked us about a tour, and, I mean, they wanted Thursday, the 13th at 5, which is the Bridges Committee meeting. I mean, so I said to them that I want them to come at our March 18th regular meeting. And then when it comes to a tour, I think the select board has to consider doing a tour of all the buildings.
Yeah.
Because I think when I was on Capitol before we did the Cecil report, we did that tour, and I think we need to get a handle, we really need to get a handle on conditions. So I'd like to have that discussion and think about when we'd want to do that.
Active and vacant, or just the active buildings? Because like we have the police, the abandoned.
No, we're not going to look at that. I'm thinking, I mean, we have buildings that are sort of on the capital plan. We've got the Buzzards Bay Fire Station. We've got the Pecasset Monument Beach. We should go look and see what the conditions are there.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
The library. I thought of something else.
The fields?
Yeah, I mean, and, you know, I think we should kind of,
Iceland?
Iceland, you know.
I just want to spend a day
So
on it.
I'll
so-
think about like what buildings and what makes sense. The high school. I think we should look at the high school.
The high school?
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Sure.
Yeah.
so, that's kind of my inclination, that's where, if we're gonna do a tour, that we kind of think about that. And I don't know when we're gonna do that either, so.
You know, along the lines of the library, I think we should reach out to the library trustees and ask them to come to ask them to invite us to one of their meetings to talk about, you know, all the correspondence you had sent relative to that. I think it would be healthy for two governing boards to get together and have an open, public, really raw, good conversation about, you know, all the things, the correspondence that you had sent. I think it's in their wheelhouse, and I think we should go to them. So the 18th is the Capitol, right? That's different from that. Is that?
Yeah, that's for the
Yeah.
come
But I
and
think
do their project.
Right. So I
Yeah.
think the correspondence that, you know, in the
If you want to have a separate meeting with them, that's fine. We could do it and then review the Capitol. I'm totally fine with that.
I think I think it would go a long way if we reach out to them and ask them to invite us to a trustee meeting.
Yeah, I
And,
agree.
and I really do. I think that would go a long way.
I think the
I think that
letter
would be
was
good.
actually the invitation.
It
if I
was,
read
right?
it.
Yeah,
think
I mean,
so.
they
I was
have-
gonna
they
say, I
have
thought it
done
was
that.
an invite. That's
Inviting
what
I
you
think
just
the
said.
14th,
Yes.
you know,
Meeting, so
Right.
They
Right.
for a
already
tour.
invited you.
They invited us for a tour.
Well, I think,
Right.
I think it's more than
Right.
a
I thought it was a
tour.
joint, I thought it's a joint meeting.
It's a joint meeting. I thought, that's why I was just, yes, it
Yeah.
did.
Just,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna
Yeah.
pull it up now.
I just think it's,
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, definitely.
I think. I don't know if I need to make a motion or
Well,
who
no,
reaches
we
out
need to
or
figure out, like, I mean, you
ask
know,
them for some dates.
okay.
Ask them for some dates, and we can work something out. I'm not saying it has to be tomorrow,
Yeah, I agree.
but I'm just saying there's a lot going on that I think, and a lot of clarity that we need to
Yeah, I think that would help. I think that would
to help
help people in
to
town.
have, yeah.
Get a grip on what's going on.
Right, right.
Because we need to be on the same page one way or another with them. I mean, they've worked very hard
Yes.
on this, and they felt, some of the members felt concerned with the way, the discussion about it recently, and so I think we all need to be in the same room so we can digest, have the discussion that needs to be had.
I agree. And one of the reasons I agree is that I attended a library trustees
Yeah.
meeting, and there was a lot of comment that the town hadn't been good stewards and hadn't done any work on the library. But when you look at the work that has been done, that, in the report, it says that the heating system is 1986. Well, that's
Sounds
not
like
correct.
we're debating.
It was
Oh, well,
replaced,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Save this for another meeting when
Yes,
we have
so
an
I
agenda
do
item.
think it's good to have, yeah, I do think
So
it's
who's
good to
responsible
get
for
the-
reaching out?
The information
The
out,
chair?
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
But if I reach out, I would like to say, what kinds of time does the select board want? I mean, do you want an evening meeting? Do you want an afternoon meeting? Do you have a day or night? I mean, do you have any preference, or are you at whatever they want?
I mean, if they are usually meeting in the afternoon, then
They're
we can
usually
accommodate.
afternoon, I
yeah,
believe,
we-
right? Like at
afternoon.
3 o'clock.
If
They're
it's
usually
two
up at
groups
3 o'clock.
and we're the third, then we can work
Yeah,
with them.
yeah.
So I think
Afternoon will work.
the library trustees usually meet on a Wednesday afternoon, I think.
Thursday afternoon.
Thursday
Thursday,
afternoon?
yeah.
Yeah,
At like 3 or something?
Yeah.
that's okay.
So we know that the Bridges meeting is the 13th,
To-
right?
the-
Well, let me see.
Is that a Thursday?
Yep.
Yeah, she said the
Thursday, right?
14th, but the 13th is
No,
the Thursday,
right.
yeah.
This is,
Yeah.
Yeah, the Cape Cod Bridge is 313 at
Right.
My March is packed, so you're gonna have to try to squeeze, if it works, I can come. I just don't know.
Yeah, so,
and they might consider having an additional meeting, right?
I think
Yeah.
isn't Kathy away? Oh, no,
They might
she's
consider
Well, their
having
normal
it.
meeting, I think,
I was
is
gonna say
scheduled for the 20th. I
Right.
think that the
That's a good
invitation
date.
for the 13th was in anticipation to have it prior to the Capitol meeting on the 18th, the 17th and 18th.
Oh.
That makes sense.
That does make sense.
Yeah, no, yeah.
so you want to suggest that we come to the trustees meeting on the 20th
Yeah.
of March?
Yeah, that'll work for me.
3?
Yeah.
So we'll offer that as a date, and then,
Maybe we can meet in the back room,
Is it
because
like
it'll
3
be,
p.m. you
it'll be
said?
more
Is there a
room.
meeting?
That's right, the upstairs.
Yeah,
conf-
usually, you probably meet in the community room.
in the programming room. And then the question is, I had suggested that they plan to come on the 18th to the select board for their capital. Do you want to wait and do that after
I
they come
would.
on the 20th?
I would.
I
Meet
think
on the
waiting
20th.
would be.
All right, so we'll hold that off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right, I will make that suggestion. That's a good one.
Great.
Yeah, because on the 18th, we have Upper Cape Tech coming,
Yes.
CPA's coming, and I want to have a discussion about the capital plan and the 5-year capital plan. Because we really didn't take time we all watched the meeting, but I think it would be good to just to have a gander at it. And it would be good to do it before we go to the trustees too. Okay, that's good. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Am I, Melissa? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstentions? Unanimous. Thank you.